Sup, my name is Ryu for the Yugioh Council, and I did promise you guys the top 5 underrated decks of the July 16, 2015 format. And I keep calling it the July 16 format because that's just what it was and what it is. So, many of you have told me many a times on my top 5, decks of the format, hey, what about this deck? What about that deck? Well, this is where they're going to shine. There are certain decks, if I did a top 10, they would be on that list. But I don't really do top 10s because the computer cannot handle it right now before we get to the new one. I'm not complaining, I'm just saying. So, let's talk about those decks that basically need mentioning. The decks that everyone underestimates but have so much potential or so much power. They're so powerful to just poop on everything that comes out. And they'll catch you off guard. Alright, I'm going to do honorable mentions first, and I have 3 of them. One of them I left off the list because honestly, if I put it on the list, I feel like I'm being biased because it's my own personal experience. So I'm going to start with the other 2 first. I'm going to mention Red Eyes because I really do feel it's underrated because of all the different ways you could build it. And Evil Swarm because it does poop on quite a few decks. Just maybe not completely yet, but go against Red Eyes or something like that. It does hold its own pretty damn well. For a rank 4 deck, it really does. And my final honorary mention, I think many of you will see this coming, would be Chaos Dragons. Because if you've seen the duel videos, I catch a lot of people off guard with it, besides just Mikey. And when I say a lot of people, trust me, I'm working on the rest of the videos. But it's definitely something that can catch you off guard if you don't know it's coming. So I'm going to mention it. Those are the mentions. Let's get on to the top 5. My number 5 pick is very simple. And maybe you guys will see this as being biased, but I put it at number 5 because I think it has plenty of potential. Just people don't really play it enough or play it fast enough. I don't know. Maybe the associate is Heroes. That's on your screen. Elemental Heroes in general. Mask Heroes. Because of the flexibility of the speed of the deck that a lot of people just don't see. I don't know if it's the way it's being played or it's just masters playing it. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's too easy to side against. But honestly, I feel this deck gets really underrated. For 2 big reasons I put it on this list. It's a great way to introduce players to the game that are just coming in for the first time or just returning. It's a really simple deck to pick up and play, but it can be very hard to master. And yes, I just use very hard when it comes to heroes. And there's actual reason I'm saying that. To actually understand the deck completely at its core where you can open up OTKs constantly in your opponent's face when they don't see it happening is mastering the deck. That's how I view it. That may not be how you view it. So if you don't agree, make sure to put in the comments your top 5 underrated decks. Just saying. So that's clear out there so no one can complain. But I see Heroes at number 5. Let's move on. My number 4 pick is Yang Zing because honestly they are pretty much one of the most underrated decks on the planet. The only main reason Yang Zing have yet to really top is everything is too fast or too strong or just too overpowered. Now, if all that was to come down, honestly, I think Yang Zing would rise. They can catch you off guard. Once they get started, they're a little bit slow. Once they get started, they're ready to go. They're going to they're going to drop everything on you real damn quick. They are the monster float deck. There are outs to them, obviously. But it's pretty much one of the underestimated decks of the freaking whole fucking planet. This deck gets pretty much undeserving hate from it, honestly. It's just really good. Easily stopped by Armades. But otherwise than that, and Star Eater, otherwise than that, the deck is really going to catch you off by surprise. So definitely number 4 spot. Definitely do like it. Let's move on to number 3. Our number 3 spot goes Infernoid. Now, the reason it goes Infernoid, in all honesty, it's again, just like Yang Zing, it's one of those decks that are just right under the meta. Not enough people play it. It's pretty damn fast now, with all things considered, all the mill power, all the setup it has. But the only reason it doesn't really top, or I guess it doesn't get the looks that it needs to get, like Necrots and everything, because it's quite not as powerful yet, or it doesn't have the steam, or maybe not enough people play it. It's kind of that hype movement. At some point, someone plays it and says, hey, these are the 5 decks you want to look out for, then that's what people are going to want to do. Infernoids are kind of just right under the radar, and they just need that time to just come right out of it and just sneak up upon you and take over. Honestly, it's one of those decks that eventually, if not now and in the future, I think definitely do have potential to become the meta at some stage of the game. I know some of you will care to disagree. Hey, they're easily stopped by Kaiku, or they're easily stopped by Imperial Iron Wall, or just, I could play Macros Cosmos and win against them. Fair enough. I've done it before myself. But when it comes down to it, eventually the deck will find outs to those plays. Eventually the deck will make ways to get rid of those cards. Eventually the deck will have to overcome it. Hence why I said, if not now, in the future. But definitely number 3 spot, Infernoid, definitely underappreciated. Let's go to number 2. Number 2 is essentially what I look at is pretty much one of the best budget decks you could possibly build, but this isn't the list for budget. That is coming after this list and the top 5 cards of the format. So once those are out of the way, the top 5 budget decks will be coming. So UA is definitely one of my favorite budget decks and favorite underestimated decks when it comes to it. Underrated. It's got a lot of fun, really quick plays, and the setups are really easy to do. I don't understand why people just don't look at the deck more often. Oh, that's right. It's not quite as powerful as, say, Burning Abyss. It's not quite as powerful as, I guess, Satellar Knights or anything above, those kind of places. They play a lot of monsters. They can clog. But at the same time, they have so many ways to put a monster on the board. Plenty of ways to search. Plenty of setup. Different ways to approach the builds. Flexibility between the ranks that they use in their extra deck. And they don't always have to use the extra deck. They could probably drop Materia Beast if they put Glow Up Bulb. They so felt the need for it. So these are all things that the deck commonly can do. Why do people not look at it? Well, it's kind of one of those things, hey, if it's not meta, I don't want to play it. But UA is definitely something, if you're coming into the game for the first time, well, let's be fair here. Heroes would be a better choice if you're coming into the game for the first time. I think eventually we'll do a list for that. But if you're coming back into the game, you don't want to spend tons of money, UA is definitely one of those options that is underrated, underestimated, and pretty cheap. Because everything in the deck is pretty much common. Outside of your extra deck stuff, it's fairly cheap. It's one of the cheapest decks you could play, especially on this list. So, definitely number 2 spot. So what beats it? Let's go to number 1 and find out. Number 1 underrated deck of this list is Ritual Beast. It can become meta. It could probably win Worlds. Everyone just kind of just throws it to the side. The deck is pretty much Infernity 2.0, and it has endless loops. When you look at an underrated deck that's right under the meta, this is what you should always go to, is Ritual Beast, Ritual Tamers. It is the one deck, in all honesty, out of this whole list, that holds the most potential to win the next event. It holds the most potential to rise up to a meta threat. It holds the most potential to basically keep going competitively in the game. Now, heroes honestly do hold that aspect as well, as we've seen many of times. They'll creep back in once in a while. But Ritual Beasts, honestly, are Infernities 2.0. That is the greatest way I can actually talk about them. They can constantly search, they spam the board, and they have their own monster that protects themselves from destruction while also dropping out big-ass beats. Pretty much sounds like Infernities. Only difference is these guys have a touch of GB in them where they go back to the extra deck and then you can bring them back out. Main deck and then go back out. Or back to the extra deck, and obviously it's just what I said. They dodge a lot of things in this game that commonly are threats. Things that would stop you normally, these guys just get over like it's nothing. If you have never looked at Ritual Beasts, they are a pain in the ass to learn the combos. Any deck that has that many combos will take some time to master the entire deck. And yes, there's a deck profile coming for in the combo guide. I'm even mastering it. So I'm talking from experience here. Ritual Beasts have pretty much the best payoff on this whole list. That's not to disregard the other 4 decks, but Ritual Beast is pretty much the best out of all of them. So I'm ready for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Council. Let me know what your top 5 underrated decks are of this format. And I'll see you on the next top 5 list, where next time we talk about the top 5 budget decks. I will see you for that, but I will see you tomorrow or later today with another video. because I'm not sure exactly what time this is going out. I'm Ryu for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Council. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later as always. Peace.